Hey guys, Mr. Lloyd here. Today I'm going to work with you on multiplying and dividing fractions. And so what we're going to be looking at here is the same couple of fractions. On the left side of my paper I'm going to be multiplying them, and then on the right side of my paper I'm going to be dividing them. Okay, so this will just be kind of a little review. We've practiced multiplying fractions, we've practiced dividing. Now today's practice for Wednesday is just going to be about going back and forth, so just kind of really strengthening up our fraction skills here. So 1/2 times 3/4. Remember, multiplying, we just multiply numerator times numerator. So this would look like 3 times 1 on top and 4 times 2 on bottom. And of course, that is 3, and the denominator is 8, and we are done. 3/8. Okay, and so let's see what this would look like on the flip side. If we divided these fractions, we're going to get quite a different answer. And on today's work, guys, I'm going to be doing a division with the butterfly method. That happens to be my preferred method. So 1 times 4 is going to be 4. This number always goes on top. Okay, when I'm dividing fractions, this first part of my butterfly, this step that I go numerator from my first number and denominator from my second number, that always goes on top. So let's make sure we remember that. 1 times 4, and then 3 times 2, of course, would be 6. So my answer right now is 4/6. I'm almost done. I just have to simplify here. 4/6 would turn into 2/3. Because 4 and 6 are both even, so I divide them by 2 to find my answer. So that was just a real simple example. Now let's look at a couple of mixed numbers. If we multiply mixed numbers, we need to make sure that we convert them to improper fractions first, and then we're ready to multiply. So let's convert first. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. So this turns into 5/4 times 2 times 4 is 8, plus 3 is 11, times 11/4. And look what I did. I said 5/4, but that's actually 5/2. So now I have 5/2 times 11/4. So this would be, let's see, well, 5 times 11 on top, 2 times 4 on bottom. Let's see what we get here. We get 55 on top, 8 on bottom. Now we have to simplify. This would be 6 whole. 6 times 8 is 48. And let me just come up here and show you. 55 minus 48 is going to be 7. So it would be 6 and 7/8. So that little last simplification step can sometimes be a little bit tricky, but remember, when we're multiplying mixed numbers, convert them to improper fractions first, then carry out your multiplication. Okay? Here the same rule applies when we're dividing fractions. We have to convert this to an improper fraction. So we know what our improper fractions are going to be. 5/2 and 11/4. Now I'm ready for my butterfly method. So these two numbers, 5 and 4, multiply together to get 20, and that's my numerator for my quotient. And these two numbers multiply together to get 22, and that's my denominator for my quotient. So now I have a fraction that says 20 over 22, which of course simplifies to, well, let's see, they're both divisible by 2, both even numbers. So 20 divided by 2 is 10. 22 divided by 2 is 11. So 10/11. Okay? So again, we're multiplying and dividing the same set of fractions, and as we would expect, since we're doing different operations, we're getting wildly different answers, and that's what we would expect. That's what we want to see. Okay? Let's keep going. Let's look at C. 30 divided by 1/2. Here, we're dividing a whole number by a fraction, so we just need to do this one small step of putting a 1 underneath our whole number. Now we're ready to go. Alright, so the top number is going to be 30. That's my numerator. The denominator is 2. 30 over 2 is better known as a nice even whole number. 30/2 equals 15. There you go. So as you might be noticing as you're watching this, or maybe you're practicing along with me in your own notebook, you'll notice, of course, multiplying fractions, pretty simple process. As long as you can simplify, really these aren't too tricky. Dividing is a little bit more tricky, but not terribly so. So here we're going to go 30 divided by 1/2, so this would be 30 times 2. and that would be up top. So 30 times 2 I know is 60, and then 1 times 1 is of course just 1. And 60 over 1 is better known as 60. So once again, just multiplying and dividing, same set of fractions. Let's see a couple more here. Now on D, I'm going to be dividing by dividing a fraction by a whole number. In this case, sorry, I'm multiplying a fraction by a whole number. Eventually I'm going to divide. So here 1 times 42 is 42. 3 times 1 is 3. And 42 thirds. Now 42 thirds, it actually simplifies into a nice beautiful whole number, which is 14. So again, this step can be the most difficult, but you can get there. You just have to think of how many times 3 fits into 42, and in that case it's 14. All right, let's look at 1/3 divided by 42. So same thing, butterfly method here. So our numerator is going to be 1. Our denominator is going to be 3 times 42. Well, good thing I have a calculator handy, huh? 3 times 42. Let's make sure we get this right. 126. Okay, so 1/126th. And that's my answer for part D for dividing fractions. So as you can see there, again, just to remind you, you're not going to get the same result if you multiply a set of fractions compared to if you divide that set of fractions. And of course that makes sense. It's just like in with whole numbers, we're not going to get the same thing if we say 10 times 6 or 10 divided by 6. We're going to get quite different answers. All right, last problem here. Problem E. Let me just slide my paper up here so you can see it. So just like problem B, we need to convert these mixed numbers into improper fractions. Then we're ready to divide or multiply. So this would be 6 times 4, 24, plus 1, 25. Over 4. I'm going to ask you to pause the video here, and I'm going to let you do 5 1/8. See if you can convert that to an improper fraction, and then we'll check our work in just a second. All right, so you pause the video. Now you're ready to go. Let's see if you did this correct. You should have 41/8. And then we just multiply our two numerators, 25 times 41. And I'm going back to my calculator again, making sure I get it right. 25 times 41, I get 1,025 on top. Didn't think we were going to get that big of a number, did we? Over 32 on bottom. Now this can be a little tricky to simplify. I need to figure out how many groups of 32 go into 1,025. So I'm going to divide. And, well, let's see here. So what we get here is 32 goes into 1,025 32 times, and there's 1/32 left over. So our answer here when we multiplied was 32 and 1/32. A bit of a wacky problem here. E, here we go, we're going to multiply, or excuse me, we're going to divide here, but we have to convert these into improper fractions, so this would be 25 over 4 divided by 41 over 8. And now, in this case, 25 times 8, which I know equals 200, and 4 times 41, which I know equals 164. Okay, and so now I have 200 over 164. My quotient is this big improper fraction, so let's do some simplifying here. 164 1/164ths would be 1, and then just so you can see what my thinking is doing right now, 200 minus 164 would be 36, so this would be 36 over 64. So simplified but not quite finished at this point. Let's see, both of these numbers are divisible. 36 and 64 are both divisible by 4. So if I divide them by 4, of course it's a mixed number, so my whole number doesn't change. 36 divided by 4 would be 9, and 64 divided by 4 would be 16. And so my final answer is 1 and 9/16. So again, this video should have been a nice little review of skills that we use to multiply fractions, multiply mixed numbers, and skills that we use to divide fractions and divide mixed numbers. As you're working through your problems today, if you have any questions, please don't be afraid to get in touch through Zoom, through Remind, through email, phone call, lots of different ways to get in touch even though we're all stuck at home right now. So bring your questions to me as they come, and we'll get you the help that you need. Thank you for watching, and I will see you later.